First contact, last mistake. The Galactic Empire's first mistake was assuming humanity had no teeth. Imperator Vecthal leaned forward on his command chair, golden armor polished to a mirror sheen. Before him, the viewport displayed the drifting mining colony of Solace V, nestled against the curve of a resource-rich asteroid. Human-made, crude by Imperial standards, metal scaffolding, basic defense turrets, and weak electromagnetic shielding. Primitive, fragile, easy prey. Deploy the Vorrakul, Vecthal said, voice calm and cold. Let this Earth see what awaits those who defy the Empire. A murmur passed through the command deck. Officers bowed, relaying the order. Deep within the bowels of the Imperial dreadnought, containment fields shimmered and cracked open. The Vorrakul, a living weapon grown in vats of obsidian bone and adaptive flesh, unfolded itself like a nightmare reborn. 8 feet tall, teeth like blades, a mind tuned for only 2 things: hunt and kill. The Empire didn't want war. They wanted fear, and the Vorrakul was their messenger. On Solace V, the alarm klaxons wailed. Dr. Anya Volkov gripped the cold railing of the observation tower, her breath fogging in the air. Snow fell steadily around the colony, blanketing the surrounding forest in white silence. She watched the dark shape crash down from orbit, fire and smoke, then silence. It landed just outside the forest perimeter. Evacuate civilians to the tunnels, she ordered, turning to the security chief. Don't engage. That thing isn't here for negotiation. The man nodded and ran. She stood a moment longer, staring into the woods. Don't come here, she silently prayed. Not to that place. An hour later, screams tore through the communications channels. The Vorrakul swept through the outer structures like a storm. Security drones melted. Soldiers vaporized. It moved like a shadow, leaving only shredded metal and bone in its wake. Anya led a group of survivors into the snow-covered forest. It was risky, but staying meant death. Her heart pounded as they moved past twisted trees and black ice, deeper into the restricted zone marked only as Project YGA, Do Not Enter. No one really remembered what the project was, just that it was sealed during Earth's third global conflict, a time when desperation birthed monsters. They found the old research facility half buried in snow. Its curved dome was cracked, its entrance overgrown with frost and roots. We shouldn't be here, one of the younger engineers muttered. Whatever's inside, it was locked up for a reason. Anya stared at the heavy steel doors. Her grandmother's stories came back in fragments. A hut with chicken legs, a woman with iron teeth, a witch in the woods who ate men's souls. Not a myth, a weapon. Help me open it, she said. They activated the emergency override. With a groan of ancient hydraulics, the doors creaked open, and warmth spilled out from within. Back on the Imperial dreadnought, Vecthal observed in smug silence. The Vorrakul had paused near the forest edge, as if sensing something different. Why is it hesitating? He asked. No known resistance left, Imperator, the officer replied. It is moving again, toward an old structure. Let it finish them, he said. They watched through the drone feed as the creature stalked forward into the trees. It approached the strange, dome-like structure. It sniffed the air. It snarled and pounced. The drone's feed blinked. Static, then motion. A human figure, frail in size but wrapped in black tattered garments, stepped from the shadows. Snow swirled around her like mist. Her face, pale and lined, bore a cruel smile. Her eyes were yellow, not with age, hunger. She raised her hand, and the Vorrakul stopped. It growled, confused. She whispered something. Then the nightmare unfolded. Baba Yaga moved like a whisper of death. One moment standing still, the next she was on a Vorrakul, driving long, bony fingers into its throat. The beast screeched, flailing. Its claws raked her torso, but no blood spilled. She didn't flinch. She laughed. The drone captured all. The way she tore the creature open with bare hands, pulled out its organs one by one, and bit into its heart with joy. Blood sprayed across the white snow, steaming in the cold. She didn't just kill the monster. She devoured it. On the dreadnought, the silence was absolute. Shut off the feed, Vecthal ordered, voice shaking. But it was too late. The footage had already been transmitted back to the fleet. Across the Empire's comms, the message replayed. A human woman, no armor, no weapons, ripping their apex predator apart like a feast. And smiling. A simple text followed, embedded in the transmission. You sent a monster. We sent back an old one. The woods remember. The forest had gone silent. Not the calm kind of silence that follows snowfall, but a deep, breathless stillness. Even the wind refused to move, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Dr. Anya Volkov crouched behind a frost-covered boulder, clutching a thermal blanket around a shivering child. Around her, a dozen survivors huddled in silence. Miners, engineers, families. All of them had seen the Vorrakul arrive, and all of them had watched the live drone feed as she tore it apart. No one spoke of what they had seen. They didn't have to. Is she still out there? One man whispered. Anya didn't answer. She was watching the tree line. The bunker door had been left open. Baba Yaga had walked out without a word, the ice hissing beneath her bare feet. She hadn't acknowledged the humans inside. Not even Anya. Just sniffed the air like a beast and smiled with cracked lips. And then she vanished into the trees. Anya hadn't dared follow. Not yet. She looked at the silent faces around her. All of them were waiting for her to explain, to give a reason, a hope. But how could she explain something no science could account for? She sat down slowly, drew a shaky breath, and began. She's not a legend, Anya said. Not exactly. Her name is Yaga, Baba Yaga, in the old Russian tongue. My grandmother used to tell me stories. The others stared. Which stories? Someone asked. Anya nodded. But not bedtime ones. These were darker. Ancient. Baba Yaga lived in the woods. She punished the wicked, ate the lost. She wasn't good or evil. She was balance. But that's just folklore, another man began. Anya shook her head. It was based on a real person, or something like one. During Earth's third global conflict, the Eurasian Alliance created Project Yaga. They needed something beyond soldiers. Something unpredictable. Something terrifying. They built her. No one knows for sure. Some say she was found. Others say she volunteered, willing to be transformed. Enhanced. She disappeared when the war ended. Frozen. Sealed. Hidden. And now, someone asked, she's awake. Elsewhere, the Imperial Fleet's War Council had descended into chaos. Admirals shouted across encrypted channels. Scientists demanded clarification. Soldiers stared at the footage on repeat, unable to believe what they were seeing. She ripped out its heart, one whispered, with her teeth. Imperator Vecthal stood rigid at the front of the bridge, his claws gripping the edge of the console. His mind raced. The Vorrakul was not a mere creature. It was a weapon of genocide. It had devoured entire colonies in past campaigns. And now it was bones in the snow. Scan the planet, Vecthal ordered. Thermal. Electromagnetic. Psionic. I want everything. His lieutenant hesitated. Sir, we already tried. Whatever that forest is, it's blocking us. Our scans bounce, as if the land itself is resisting. Vecthal growled. Then we burn it. Prepare orbital bombardment. The forest felt alive. Baba Yaga walked through snow that melted around her feet. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark. The trees leaned as she passed. Crows followed in silence, perched on branches that bowed without wind. She carried a bone, one of the Vorrakul's fangs. She licked it, humming softly. The forest whispered back, in a language no longer human. She had once been a scientist, a woman. That much she remembered. A time before the hunger, before the blood and bone and war. But that part of her had faded long ago. What remained now was primal, something the stars feared but Earth had buried. She stopped suddenly. Above, the sky shimmered. She felt it. The tingle of charged ions, the subtle shift in pressure. Orbiting ships. Positioning. Preparing fire. She looked upward and smiled. Let them try. Back at the shelter, Anya's comm unit buzzed. Static crackled. Then a voice broke through. This is Earth Command. All surviving units on Solace V respond. Anya jumped to her feet. This is Dr. Anya Volkov. We're alive. In the forest. There was a pause. We've seen the footage. Project Yaga is confirmed active. Earth Council is debating. Debating, she snapped. She just saved us. She's not stable, the voice replied. We never could control her. That's why she was sealed. You think you can contain what the Empire can't even scan? Silence. Stay hidden. Reinforcements will take time. She looked at the trees. A distant howl echoed between the trunks. I don't think we have time. In orbit, the Imperial fleet charged their weapons. Red targeting grids marked the forest. Fire, Vecthal ordered. The first plasma lances struck the surface. Fire bloomed across the treetops, but then something changed. A wave of frost surged upward, defying gravity, coiling like a serpent of ice. The blast froze in midair, shattered, and fell like blue snow. The comms officer screamed, "Sir, our power systems are collapsing. Something's feeding back through the beam." From the center of the forest, Baba Yaga lifted her arms, and the snowstorm turned vertical. Energy danced on her fingertips. She spoke a single word, and the dreadnought's main cannon froze solid. Vecthal staggered back. What is she? Back in the woods, the humans stared at the aurora-like energy lighting the sky. She's fighting back, Anya whispered. Not just with teeth. The forest pulsed. The trees groaned. She remembers. An Empire would, too. Send more monsters. Deep within the Empire's high command war room, holographic projections flickered in chaos. Glowing symbols representing dreadnoughts, cruisers, and planetary divisions pulsed red. The forested region on Solace V, where a single ancient Terran woman had turned back a planetary assault, now shone with static interference. No telemetry came out. No drones returned. And most disturbingly, the Vorrakul's biosignal had terminated not from damage, but consumption. She devoured it, whispered Grand Strategist Lorsun, her mandibles twitching in disbelief. With primitive teeth. She nullified orbital bombardment. Admiral Hexer rasped. We saw the beams freeze midair. That is not science. That is sorcery. Imperator Vecthal, hands folded behind his back, said nothing. His jaw clenched, golden armor faintly vibrating as his core suit's power adjusted to his rising heart rate. Finally, he turned toward the council chamber's central throne, a raised dais where Emperor Xerox III, the immortal sovereign of the Galactic Empire, glowed in biocybernetic brilliance. What would you have us do, my Emperor? Vecthal asked. The Emperor's voice rolled through the room, both regal and artificial. Send more monsters. On Solace V, the forest was no longer just a refuge. It was a sanctuary and a trap. Anya Volkov stood at the bunker entrance, staring at a crude pile of skulls that hadn't been there the night before. Vorrakul remains, arranged carefully in a totem shape, their blackened bone glistening with frost. Baba Yaga's message was clear. I warned them, she muttered. The air was sharp with static again. She knew what it meant. The Empire wasn't backing down. They were doubling their efforts. And Baba Yaga was waiting. The sky cracked open. 5 Vorrakuls, each larger and more heavily modified than the first, descended in pods of obsidian and flame. Where they landed, craters formed. Trees splintered. Screams echoed. Anya and the survivors watched from afar on cracked tablets. Old mining tech barely capable of intercepting fleet transmissions. The new Vorrakuls moved together, coordinated, scanning, and triangulating. They were not only built for destruction, but for hunting Yaga specifically. One carried a high-frequency dampener on its back. Another had 4 arms ending in energy blades. One walked upright, but with an elongated skull and fluid plasma tone. She won't win this time, said a frightened voice. Anya remained quiet. In the shadows of the glacial trees, Baba Yaga crouched barefoot over a puddle of black ichor. Her fingers traced the slime thoughtfully. Her long nails were stained crimson from the last hunt, her mouth still flecked with bits of bone. Her breath came slow and calm, as if savoring the moment. They had sent her more toys. She grinned. Then she vanished. The Vorrakuls advanced, following heat signatures and seismic trails. They spread into a formation, sensors pinging off the dense woods. Their communications remained silent. One clicked a targeting node into place, scanning the old bunker. Empty. Then the trees moved. It wasn't wind. It was intention. The first Vorrakul barely had time to turn before a tree branch speared through its eye socket. It screamed, a sound like rusted metal, and Baba Yaga descended from above, landing on its back, snapping vertebrae like matchsticks. The creature thrashed, slammed her into a rock, but she didn't let go. She whispered into its ear before snapping its skull wide open. The second Vorrakul saw the kill and activated its plasma blades, rushing into the clearing with a screech of rage. Baba Yaga didn't run. She waited. The moment the blade swung, she dropped to all fours, moving within human speed. The ground cracked under her weight. She lunged, seized the creature's bladed arm, and ripped it off at the socket. Black fire sprayed. She used its own blade to decapitate it in one smooth, messy arc. 2 down. The remaining 3 attempted to regroup, but it was too late. The forest had shifted. Frost crept over the ground. Roots moved where none should move. The weather changed without warning. Sleet hammering down like bullets, thunder whispering in an ancient tongue. Yaga was everywhere. The third Vorrakul met her deep within a glacial ravine. It tried to pin her with a sonic dampener, emitting painful shrieks that made birds fall dead from the sky. She smiled through the noise and bit through her own hand to escape its grip. Then she shoved her torn wrist, now bone and tendon, into the beast's throat and tore upward. On the command deck of the Narduin, Vekthal watched, his claws shaking. 3 down. In under 11 minutes, someone said. Cease all drops, he ordered. Don't send the rest. She's unstoppable, an officer whispered. It's not warfare. It's myth. Vekthal didn't argue. He had seen this once before. Long ago, during a rare alliance with a dying insectoid species, he had heard tales. Not of Earth, but of something on Earth. A being feared not by humans, but by their gods. Baba Yaga. The last 2 Vorrakuls never stood a chance. One was lured to a frozen lake where it slipped, confused, before being pulled under by roots that moved like tentacles. The last tried to run. It was the only one that screamed in something close to fear before Baba Yaga leapt onto its back and drove its own heart into its skull. She didn't just kill them. She erased them. By dawn, the forest was silent again. Baba Yaga sat at the edge of the clearing, gnawing on a blackened bone, surrounded by alien corpses. Her face was unreadable. Not satisfied, not angry, just present, watching the sky, waiting, because she knew something the Empire had yet to understand. They were done sending monsters. The next thing they'd send would be themselves. And she was ready. When the Empire knelt, the Galactic Empire's throne world had never known silence like this. In the Grand Chamber of the High Galactic Council, where normally hundreds of voices argued, barked, and schemed in deafening cacophony, today there was only a hollow, suffocating quiet. Floating above the polished obsidian floor was a grainy transmission, paused on one final, impossible frame. A human woman, barefoot, draped in blood-soaked rags, seated calmly on the mutilated corpse of a Vorrakul. She gnawed on a charred rib as casually as a diplomat sipped wine. Behind her, alien skulls hung from trees like ceremonial lanterns. Around her, the forest glowed with unnatural light. Something ancient, something alive. That woman was not armor, not machinery, not synthetic. She was flesh and legend. The war had not been declared over, but it had ended, because now the galaxy knew fear. On Solace V, the sky had cleared. The snow no longer fell. The static in the air was gone. No more Vorrakuls came from the sky, and no dreadnoughts hovered in low orbit. The silence was complete. Dr. Anya Volkov emerged from the old bunker, blinking against the pale morning light. Survivors followed behind her slowly, unsure if they were free or if a new nightmare would greet them. But all they saw was a single figure, seated by the fire in the center of the clearing. Baba Yaga. She didn't look up. She simply reached into the fire, pulled out a seared bone, and bit into it with a crack. The humans remained back. No one dared speak, except Anya. She stepped forward. What? Baba Yaga glanced at her, the yellow glint in her eyes, neither cruel nor kind. They came with teeth, Yaga rasped. Her voice was dry, like wind over old graves. So I show them fangs. You saved us. I did what I was made for. Anya hesitated. Made or became? Baba Yaga didn't answer. She simply looked to the sky, where the stars still pulsed faintly behind the atmosphere. They will come again. One day. They always do. Anya stepped closer. And will you be here? I'm always here. In orbit, the Imperial fleet remained in paralysis. Imperator Vec Thal sat in his quarters, helmet removed, staring at nothing. His soldiers avoided him now. None had dared to speak his name since the last Vorrakul scream echoed through the fleet's open channels. Even now, echoes of the transmissions were spreading. Pirate bands, merchant guilds, planetary militias. They all knew. The footage had escaped, unstoppable. Some called it a hoax. Others prayed it was. But the ones who mattered believed. They had seen her. Across the stars, responses began to bloom like wildfire. The Tekri collective halted all operations near human space. The Slorn hegemony called an emergency cultural review, placing Earth myths under security classification. Even the Korth, silent, unfeeling machines, ran predictive models and, for the first time, returned a result not in probability, but a word. Avoid. Back on Earth, a chamber deep beneath Geneva flickered to life. The Earth Council had gathered in secret, the feed from Solace V projected before them. She's still active, said one official. She didn't attack the survivors, said another. That's restraint. Measured force. She's not a weapon, said a third, tone hard. She's a warning. A long silence followed. Finally, the oldest member leaned forward. Her voice was soft. Then let her remain one. Let the galaxy remember. No votes were cast. No motion passed. But the decision was unanimous. 2 weeks later, a shuttle from the Empire, unarmed, marked with white truce glyphs, descended to the outskirts of Solace V's forest. No escort. No weapons. Only an envoy in ceremonial robes, trembling as he stepped onto frostbitten earth. He was met not by Baba Yaga, but by a small group of humans, miners, farmers, scientists. Ordinary people. Anya Volkov stood at the front. We've come to negotiate peace, the envoy said. Anya crossed her arms. Then listened closely. The envoy blinked. We were told, the witch, the thing, she isn't a thing, Anya said. She's ours. Not a tool. Not a threat. A memory. One we let sleep until you woke her. The envoy swallowed hard. Will she return? Anya didn't answer right away. She looked past the trees, where shadows moved just slightly more than they should, where crows still watched in eerie silence. She never left. Later that night, the survivors gathered by a new fire. Baba Yaga stood near the edge of the forest, silent, arms crossed. Children peeked at her with both fear and awe. She said nothing. She didn't belong here. Not really. Not in this time. But the forest remembered her. The stars feared her. And Earth? Earth knew her. Anya approached slowly. You don't want thanks, she said. Yaga didn't move. You don't want command. Or power. Or place. Yaga looked at her, that same hungry calm in her eyes. I want the galaxy to understand, she said, that for all their monsters, for all their warships and dominions. She raised her arms to the sky, letting snow fall onto her blood-stained skin. Humanity raised me. And so, the war ended not with treaties or battles, but with a memory burned into the minds of 1,000 species. A woman older than myths, who walked barefoot into the woods and devoured the nightmare the galaxy sent to conquer her.